Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. There's a bit of a delay on my camera, but we'll work with it. That'll do its job. Let me see if I can fix it whilst it's messing around. But yeah, so today what I'm going to do is just going to actually delete this and kind of start again with my webcam. Yeah, so we're going to carry on with the arms and see what we can do with it. This webcam is not my friend at the moment, so let's see if we can do something else. And yeah, so we're going to start working into, let's see. Okay. Oh, no, we'll cancel that. That's not going to work. Cool. Okay. We'll just do it this way. No problem. You just have to listen to my voice today. So we're gonna have a good look at where we're at with this hand and this arm. So last week we got to this point where we had. I managed to fix this, by the way. Let me just pull this up a second. So it's quite a simple constraint system. The elbow, rotation there, hand in the wrist, arm in the shoulder. And then the constraint has to have volume modifier set to 0, volume max, volume min, 100, 100, distance max. I mean, you can adjust this, but that's how far it can be, the distance it can be moved, and ignore 3D transform. And it's the same for all of these and the same for this one. And what that gives us is the ability to kind of like squash it, but when it reaches 100%, it sort of breaks, which tells the animator they are going off model, so to speak. In this, obviously, you could adjust that and make it 110 and 120 and make it more stretchy. This is cool because you can basically pose your hand. I don't like this massive bounding box, but apart from that, it makes it really easy to move around and manipulate. So we can kind of get things into position quite quickly. I will talk today about the differences between, let's see if I can reset all of these. The differences between this method, this constraint system, and like the FK, more traditional, just pegs and drawings for the arms, and the benefits of both. And maybe we'll create one for the traditional setup and one for this setup, and then we'll create maybe a master controller or something that we can switch between them, just to show you how that's done. This is obviously was made as a testing setup, and I'm going to pop that and create the shoulder correctly. So I'm going to maybe try and do this sleeve as well today. So hi, Daniel. Thanks for coming. Right, let's have a go. Let's see where we get to. So I need to adjust this first of all. I've drawn it in a weird position. Now there's no deformers on there or anything that I need to worry about. So I could just always check what's going on in here. Okay. That's all good. So I could just potentially adjust all of this. Let's just quickly try and see, because if you hit these things and you choose show control, it will show me the control sort of triangle. So let's see if we can rig it. Actually, I'll tell you what, to make things simple, we'll just do it in a sort of a more upright position. Now the body as well has this simple sort of, we have this system here. where we're using a weighted curve. We could also have a version of this where we could have the deformers around the outside. Um, I don't know if this is going to be like hugely beneficial to have this. This is meant to help save time. You could use a deformer on deformer. I know I mentioned it's a script, it's not quite stable, but I've not had any problems really with myself. It's just scripts when they move around with rigs sometimes break. But this is very easy to use. And for what I'm going to use it for, as something to quickly pose. I mean, the body's going to do this mainly. You could also still click on the top piece and move it around. So I think that's probably going to be enough. You could definitely set something else up if you wanted to, but all rigs have restrictions and things that they don't do. We're also going to change this arm to being in the color of the skin because you see I've changed this layout slightly as well to make it a bit easier to see what I'm doing. We're going to have the sleeve on top of that. I'm not quite sure why I've got the top view there. Don't need that. Let's move this. So I'm moving the drawings because I want the default reset position to be correct. Let's press K. Now I could be really precise about this and get this perfect. Let's show you how I would do it. So I'm copying that circle, going into this arm layer. For a second, I'm going to just delete the fill. We'll see what that's a 12 right now. Let's make it a 0.1. Okay, it's really, really thin. I'm going to paste it in, make this also a 0.1. I'm going to turn on snapping. Check those things are on. And we're going to move this. Let's have a look. It should give us a little clear line. If we press K, it'll tell us when it intersects. See how that's not quite, there's a little line there, it tells us it's intersecting. You shifting up, there we go. That's pretty good. That's pretty much bang on. And then I'm going to go to the top one. And that looks pretty close as well. It's not quite there, so I'll turn off the snapping for a second. You see how that line's not quite. We want that little dot to be bang over there. And you can hold down Alt and Shift and it will resize from the center. That's pretty close. And then we've got that one also quite close. Let's see where we're at there. So you can do this thing where you draw it in a straight line and draw the circle directly over it, and it will make it very easy to adjust. I'm doing this a bit of a backwards way, but you can still do it. You just got to remember when you zoom, like I want to zoom out now. See how the zoom, it's adjusting how much it moves. Like the little nudges don't really work very well if I'm zoomed really far in. But if I zoom out, a tiny little tap actually works better. So that's pretty close. I'll just adjust this one. Temporarily move this pivot down here. The reason I'm being super precise about this is because I do want that circle to be quite close. Let's see if snapping helps here. Snapping doesn't always do what we want it to. Let's just check if there's anything else. snap to grid, maybe. Don't think that's gonna. That's close enough. That'll do. That'll do. Yeah, I want to be really precise because we want that center line to be spot on. Let's turn this back to 12. You can have these pre-made as well, by the way. You don't have to do this every time. Just me trying to show you. Drawing itself. So now I know that is perfectly on top, as long as there's no movement. And then what we can do, we can get the lines, turn our snapping back on. Boop, 5. You see how that's now showing me the center line? I'm going to select these pieces, turn this down to our favorite 0.1 again. Then this is where we come out of here. We have that circle selected, and that's where we're going to zoom right in. And there's our pivot position. And that is pretty much as close to the center, because Toon Boom doesn't have like an auto select and center sort of function like Adobe does. I remember Adobe Flash Animate, as it's now called. That used to do that really easily. Maybe they'll add it in future. But yeah, so we've got that. You can always add a little circle over this if you wanted to as well. That would be literally the process of selecting it, clicking on the drawing. I always go into the drawing view when I'm doing these things because it makes it so much easier. There's no peg information when you do it this way. Just holding down Shift there. Let's move this. And that's pretty close. And then I'm going to use the cutter tool to get rid of those. Fill that, oops, not in black, in skin color. I could, to make my life a lot easier with the patching of this arm and sleeve here, I could just make it so that the end bit is green, because it's going to affect, I'm going to have like a hairline of skin, and I'm going to have to apply other things and filters to make that work. So just because this is going to be a sleeve anyway, I don't really need to worry about it. So I could just go in, and this is one where I might use this instead. Just literally say it's always going to be the sleeve from here. Get rid of those bits. Where's our... What color did I color the t-shirt? Oh, it's just the iris color right now, is it? Yep, it is the iris fill. It tells me down there in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay. Let's change that. Click plus. Let's call this t-shirt. Wicked. Upper. Oh, didn't want to do that. Snapping can cause a lot of problems, to be honest. Cool. Let's fill. Oops, did not want to fill all of that. Oh, it's rounding off. I don't want it to do that. So if you get this, the cutter, and it's like rounding off, you can just select the ends and the tool properties to being flat. And that will change the ends, but then also in the cutter you have the same setting. So I can choose to have it flat. That's annoying. Do we need this to be... So we don't actually need the outline on the arm. We could just change this all to being a fill. So let's do that now. Problem solving as we go. Convert to... Oh, I might just use this. Or just... pencil to brush, and then we will flatten, and then we will use the cutter. Oops, weird. There we go. So that's now all like a flat fill, but it makes life easier. So pencil lines and fills or paint brushes, they can be a bit more complicated just because of how they work. Not that my way is necessarily the right way, but it's a way of doing it for sure. Cool. Okay, so then we need to check that this arm, this one doesn't matter so much because it's not as exposed, but kind of about right. Maybe a little bit further out. And the same for this one. I can go and copy this now. I want to copy that. Paste. So a lot of the time you'll see rigs and they'll be created in this like perfect, they'll be created in this perfectly bland position to start with. And you can do that. You can create them neutral, but it doesn't matter as well if you create them in some form of posing, just because you can, depending on what you're doing. If you're working on a production rig, a lot of the time you're going to need to set it up with the correct standards, but it doesn't matter too much for personal stuff. And if you can try it out, test out what works. Just rotate this around a touch. That's Control and Alt, Command Option. Just try and wangle that in there. Tell you what we'll do instead of that. We'll create some very fine lines with snapping on. Okay. And then Shift, cut this one out. Cool. The cutter tool is it's so good. Does everything you need it to. Same thing again. Let's convert to paintbrush and flatten. Same. And then we can use this right now if we want to. We could go in and create a little dot, but we already have a perfect pivot from the elbow, so I can just flatten those. A couple of extra points in there that we don't need. Just creating points there so I can got something to reference. I'm going to taper this arm ever so slightly. Okay. Like Shift 1, 2, 1, 2. Cool. We can adjust this a little higher. This is very much designing on the fly. That arm looks massively long. So I might have to say we're going to maybe work to something like this. That'll look a little bit better. Okay. Cool. So I've kind of wrestled my way with that one. We shall turn on. Just hide this one sec. Need to add my little lines again. Does not look like it's in the middle. Just check what the snapping's doing. Turn off grid. Okay, that does not feel right. Okay, that looks good. Something weird was going on with the point there. Cool. So we've got a central pivot. That's why it's good to create these little circles with the perfectly placed pivot. You can obviously move them around or with a crosshair in. Turn these back on. Oh, it's not in the middle. That's weird. So what you can do, you can do this little trick. You just move it down to the bottom of your screen. I know it's just over there. And I can just move it into position. And that's going to do the job because it's super zoomed in. So, turn these back on. There we go. And now it doesn't matter as much with this because of how the constraint system works. But if you're in the FK setup, you definitely want that to be correct. So let's reset all of these. So we have this, we have this. What was that I just had selected that was way out? Shoulder, it's this one. So we want this one to be the same as this one. So I'm just going to click the yellow boxes for both. This one is just arm master. So we're going to copy, paste. Arm master is probably wrong. We should rename this arm upper. That's the hand. That's the elbow. Okay, we can deal with that. And then this is just arm master with the single P. That'll work. And then we need to move our hand into the correct position. So this is why I like to use like little proxy shapes, because it doesn't matter too much if they're not very good or you get them wrong. You don't then have to move a whole set of hands that you've drawn. If you're really organized and you know exactly what you're doing, fair enough. But I was winging it. So, and this is, how a lot of people are going to rig. Yes, it's fair enough to be super professional and plan everything, but you end up getting stuck in planning and it's boring, let's be honest. So some people just want to get going and know how to fix things. Like if I show you everything perfect, it's not really going to help you. But if I show you me making mistakes, then and fixing things, you're going to learn more. is the plan anyway. Right, cool. So there we go. We've got our weird little oval hand. We've got these pieces. And that's quite cool to pose. We could do something really nice that when it overlaps, it's weird how it goes in front of the ear. How does that happen? So I'm going to check the Z depth. Z is there. Let's pull Alt down. Oh yeah, so it's just 1. That's not a big deal. So I just held down Alt and pressed down, or Option pressed down, and it nudged it forward. I was just checking there wasn't an error in there. Let's do this sleeve. That'll be fun. Yeah, sorry, what I was going to say was when it comes in front of the skin like this, we could have a line appear, and that could just be something that is, takes the shape and adjusts it. We could even do something really cool with comp where it expands it and adds a blur to it and a shadow node. So when we render, it looks really cool. Should we do that? Should we do that now? That'd be fun. Let's do it on the hand. We'll just do it on the hand and the face here. Oops. Right. So we need it. This is going to be complicated, so let's work this one out. So the hand, the arm. We'll say when this arm, any of this comes in front of the head, which is here. And we've already got a head flatten and a shadow effect, actually. That was for the neck. We're going to get rid of that, but we'll nick that shadow because we're not using it anymore. And we'll use this head flatten. Is that still working? Yes, because it's not. There we go. Wicked. So we'll use this, how this cap shadow is being processed. Oh, that's just a shape, actually. So we'll do, instead of that, we'll use the arm, and then we'll process a shadow of the arm. Let's just see what this is going to look like. So we have to turn render on. So that's what it looks like. Let's choose to flatten it, and we'll just call it. See how that's changed it? Yeah. So if that's off or disconnected, see how it's got the lines and the different layers, but flattening it with a bitmap. We'll just call it flatten 1 and flatten. There we go. So we know they're the same thing. So we can also offset this. It's not going to be in there, but maybe what we can do is just increase the intensity, maybe. That's too intense. That's too much. Maybe just a 0.5. Maybe we change this to a 2. Oh, that could work. 1.6. Importantly, I want to check that and then pull this on top. So how does that look? I want to use an applied peg transformation, but I want to make sure it actually is going to work, because I did one of those earlier on, and it wasn't moving in Z depth when I was scaling things. So what we could do is apply. I think before we do that, let's go for the simple one. I was going to offset it, but instead, I think I'm just going to go try and increase this and go up to 1. Bring that down to 2. Maybe bring the intensity down to 0.5. No, I think we need that. I think we need that higher. I think that's going to work. Nice. Okay. Great. We'll call that ready for whatever it's going to do. And then we just need to make sure that this is significantly Because what basically needs to happen is this needs to be flattened and only apply underneath the arm, right? So let's think about this. Let's try it. I think we could probably avoid this by just having to nudge all of this forward. Oh no, we can't avoid that. Let's try again. Pop this one here. If we go Alt and back. Yeah, we've got to be careful. Right, scrap that. What we'll do instead. I'm wondering if we put these two to here, like so, and that always goes behind. Nope, that's not going to work. Instead, then we shall push this one through. Seamless bitmap. I believe that's the. I wonder. Oh, maybe we. Oh yeah. Silly. I should have just flattened that. We've got a slight issue here. We don't want it to apply to that, so we need to add. Thanks, Kevin. Good luck. Hopefully, I don't need good luck with what I'm doing. But yeah, thanks very much for tuning in. So I've got this is cool. I like what's happening there. It's giving a little bit of depth, but I don't want it to apply to this green bit. So I'm going to make it so it only applies to the color. So let's see. We use the color selector. Am I remembering this correctly? Great. Skin. Cool. So we added the skin in. So now, I don't understand why it was dropping. Oh, because I didn't cut it to the head. Silly me. So at the moment, that's still going to apply. If we move that over there, there's still going to be a shadow. Not that it's that visible. We probably could get away with not using the color selector. We could just use the mask of the head. The only time that would be a problem would be if the head was behind the body and the arm was in front of the body. You'd still get a shadow. So to cover this, and that's me just knowing that's what we're going to have a problem with. Delete. Oh, we do need that. It kind of flattens it quite nicely. Cool. Let's call this flatten to. I'm not quite 100% sure if that is going to allow me to move this arm in Z depth. So I do need to check this, because traditionally the bitmap meant we couldn't do that. But it's okay. It's working. Can we move this one? Yeah, it all moves together. That's the only problem, which is not ideal for certain things. I don't think that's going to work. I think we're going to have to have something else work here, because basically we want the forearm to be able to go backwards and forwards, and this part stay. So we shall have to get rid of that. Need to get rid of that flatten. See how that's That's in front still, and that's behind. We need to be able to do that. So, slightly back to the drawing board. We want, what else could we do with this? Right, we could throw a color selector in instead of this, which is going to look like so. We could scrap that and we could have the matte resize. Which will resize to, let's just throw it something huge so we can see it. Whee! Too much. The only downside of using these things is you can't see them until you press render. So, and then we can recolor. Oh, we could use, instead of the color selector, we could use the color override, which will allow us to replace a color. But do you know what's like the easier way of doing this? It's going through all these different steps to make it automated, where you could replace the color and all this kind of thing. That's quite processor intensive, and matte resize doesn't give you like beautiful results. What we could do instead, and something that we can see as the animator, it's an extra step, but because the fact that we're only doing it when we are building the thing, so with the arm, and then anytime we add a new hand, but it's such an easy extra step to do. We just literally need to go into here, and we could take this color, copy it, paste it on a different art layer, and make it slightly larger so it appears. So, for example, just take this, copy, paste. Let's add a stroke to this. Convert stroke to pencil lines. Where's our color? Skin, fill. It's too chunky, so we'll pull this down a bit. Let's say 5. Yeah. We don't even have to have it that color. We can go with something even lighter. But, and you can adjust that and make it really perfect. And then this could only show if we pull in an underlay. And then we need a layer selector as well, because we don't want the main arm to show anything. And then the underlay is going to go under here, and it's only going to show if the flattened head is over it, like this. Yeah, and we've only done it for the one arm here, but that's a way of making this show something. Yeah, so that's probably be my preference. This is a much more elegant and lower processor intensive thing because it's basically just processing a drawing in the background. So I'm going to go for that option. Yes, it does mean we have to like flatten the hand, but there's a couple of steps you have to jump through every time you add a new hand, but it's rare that the animator is going to add loads of hands after a while. So especially on what I'm doing, to be honest. Cool. Okay, so let's add that same process. We could also we could do the process. I think realistically we're only really going to need it for this. We're still going to have to flatten these, you see, to put them in behind. But that's at least how it's going to work. So I'll figure the details out of that in a bit. Sleeve. Let's try and do a bit of a sleeve. Right, okay, so we've got this upper arm. Just going to get rid of these for now, because I don't need that. And we'll get rid of this one in the background. Okay, so the sleeve is going to be, how is our arm currently constructed? It's very simple. So we could have the sleeve be part of this, or we can just make it follow this peg. We can use a point kinematic output, which is kind of like a traditional kinematic output. It basically says to follow it. We can easily just have it follow this peg. Let's go for that for starters. And I'm going to just create a whole new drawing because I don't like the massive bounding box that it creates. I am going to just move these along a touch, give ourselves a little room. I want that to be on top of this. I'll give it its own peg. I'll pop that in there. Make sure all of these are reset. Okay. Then what we shall do is draw an ellipse. Well, yeah, we'll do an ellipse quickly to show you how it works. We'll create it a little bit further down. And let's make this a little bigger. And we shall turn on our snapping. Look at that. That beautifully snaps there. And then we're going to use our ellipse again, somewhere around here. Cool. Pop that into there. Great. Okay. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. Can get rid of this. But I want to create something that is easy to start with. I'm actually going to copy this. Just fill that for now, and we'll just check on chuck that in the underlay. I'm just going to copy. I had to put that in there because I want to copy the arm upper pivot position, which is kind of way out now anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. Let's pop that over here. I kind of want it to be the same as the sleeve. So I'll pull the sleeve over there, copy, paste, copy, paste. Great. Let's see how this works. Grab the elbow. Boop, 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 boop. It's horrible. You can see the sleeve is squashing a little bit there, but that's okay. Now, I want to see how this reacts with deformers on it. So let's chuck a animation, invert creator, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe. Good job, Toon Boom. It's a good effort. I like that. So, does it? I mean, it's going to act weird when I deform these. Not too bad, though. Great. So we've got a bit of extra movement there, a little extra control. Cool. We don't really actually want that we don't want to be able to select that peg because it stops us being able to select to move the shoulder around. So instead, I'm going to delete this. Then when we select it, it moves this. And then if we want to move the sleeve, we're going to have to use deformers. Compromise, yes, but why has it done that? Oh, because I thought I don't really want this one. You know, I'm going to just delete that curve. We'll go into edit mode, just tweak. Just trying to get that a little bit better. Ta-da! Oops, press the wrong button. Cool. Right, and then to create the back part of the sleeve. So the back bit, you could also have a deformer on. It might be overkill, but yeah, could be needed. I'm just going to tweak this a little bit as well. I feel it's a touch high. Now when we use this thing, we're not going to see... Oh, you see how it does this? Call this shearing. It doesn't always appear when we look through. Now, the reason why it's doing this is because the point is the deformer is being like pinched. It's extreme, and it's struggling to comprehend what's going on. So sometimes you find it works better if you create more points. Let's create the problem. It probably will go away if I move this. So that's like it's squashing through on the other side. Let's see if we can fix it. First of all, I don't need this. I'm going to select it all and go drawing, optimize, remove extra strokes. It needs flattening then if it's not doing it. Now drawing, optimize, remove extra strokes. Oh, how odd. Let's go convert, flatten. Measurements lines, convert. Da-la-la. Who knows? Normally that's my optimize. Just optimize. Oh, there we go. We've got it. Perfect. We got there eventually. So now we've got this thing. Now we can copy this and we can say, I'm actually going to get rid of that. Paste it in here. Cutter. We don't need all of it. Just go around there, let go, and it'll make a straight line. Cut it out. I'm going to press on here. Control. Get rid of these. And we should have a nice something or other. It doesn't matter too much past here because we're not actually going to use it. Like we're not going to see it. It's just going to be for the background of the sleeve. Sleeve inner, new color. Oops, just move the thing. Make it darker. Right now, it actually improved the image slightly. But the way we could improve this is by going into here and adding a couple of points. Don't know if it's going to do it. Made it slightly better. But instead of that, what we'll do is we will hit this, hit reset deformer, and then we will make sure our our sleeve, beg your pardon, is going to be affected. So we've got the line art for the top bit, the underlay for the bottom bit. So I'm just going to put a line art filter in here. I could use my pre-made stuff in the library. Filters. Get rid of the stuff I don't need. It's much easier than creating and renaming every time. So line art, alt, pop that one in there. Underlay. Importantly, this has got to sandwich our upper arm, so you can see the other side. And then this is going to be, well, it doesn't need to be cut by anything. I don't even know why I brought that in there. So we can get rid of that one. And if we wanted a deformer on it, here. Oh, silly me. That's crazy. I forgot. That's being influenced by the same deformer. I was about to say if you want a deformer on it, you need to create another one of these. But if you don't want the same deformer to act upon it, you need to create another one of those. So we're going to just shove all this stuff across. It's been a long morning, guys. I am like my dog on the bed, tired. Shouldn't complain, but there we go. Right, cool. So now we've got this. This one's not being affected by the deformer. So first of all, I'll show you. We move this out of the way. Aha, there's our... I made myself cough with my surprise. There's our sleeve, and it's sandwiched beautifully on the other side. It doesn't actually look any different in darkness. Let me just double check I've done something that's t-shirt. Don't know if I colored it, so I don't think I named it properly. Let's try t-shirt inner close. Render preview is your friend most of the time. There we go. I didn't do it, or maybe I pressed Control-Z. Right. There we go. That's not looking too bad. There's a bit of a weird thing going on there. Does that go away with render? I think it does. Again, if you want to check something full scale, it's always a good idea to have a peg on here. It's just a quick resize, and it just zips everything up massive. And then you can just turn it off. Just press D to deactivate, and it allows you to render full size. So you can actually see there's something weird. I mean, I don't mind it too much. Let's see if anything's changed if I was to adjust the drawing. What you can also do as well is you can bring up, if you want to be really fancy, you can bring up another camera view. And this one can give us a sweet, sweet preview. And this one can be for working in. So there's our render preview. And here's our working view. And we can turn off deformers in this view. Probably the reason it looks garbage is because I've drawn it as a curve and I'm inverting it too much. So what we'll do instead is we will get our trusty line tool and get our little black line. I'm going to cut that. Oh, that's not enough. Cut that down there. Where's our cutter? Boop. 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 Off you go. And then we've got this piece underneath. Yeah, that works. And we will use our selector, get rid of that line, and then we need to adjust our deformer. So pull that into there, make that go down the line, pull that one into there. Swish, that looks cool. We can keep the sleeve like this because it's rare. We're not going to invert the sleeve, if that makes sense. It's always going to be concave. Is that convex? Who knows? But if we go to that, you see how it's got this weird thing? I was like, oh, I can't use my deformer. I've turned this off. That is what's happening there. Hide the deformers, and you can see this works much better now. Now, actually, I should probably extend this. So Control, add a new point. Make sure it's got plenty of room. We don't want the animators complaining, i.e. me. Yeah, you don't want to build something in that doesn't work. So now we've got a nice sleeve that will follow around. It's going to squash a little weird. It actually kind of creates a cool three-dimensional effect, which is a happy accident. This bit at the end is a bit odd, but you've got your deformer to correct it if you needed to. Just make sure you go and check this, because that is going to be, see what I mean? You can easily make a mistake there, but that's kind of like all rigs have those things. You have to be quite careful with bits and bobs. Control Z. Yeah, so there you've got a nice little auto sleeve that you can turn on. You can reset the whole deformer back if you want, but I would probably leave it in a posed position like this. And yeah, I will probably put, I'll maybe do something with the shadow so that it auto shadows over the face, but I'm not quite sure I'm going to do that. I think realistically the big thing is to going to have it on the forearm. I'll have to play with the Z depth and stuff because at the moment this is still not working properly. Or apply peg transformation is a really nice one. Let me just show you that one more time. So if I wanted to make all of this arm always appear on top, we can go apply peg transformation, snap that into there. Control P to add a peg to this side, transformation. And we're just going to click on that peg, Alt and Option and down, down, down. And now it's always in front there. Doesn't matter about the pivot position. So that's going to hopefully scale. Let me just quickly check. Oh, scales good. Yes, that's scaling nicely. Maybe it was a bug I had before when it didn't scale. So we've got this in a good position, this in a good position. And then we could maybe use those to adjust the Z space of this arm. Now, the next stage for me is to make a little kind of like cut through piece here for the neck part of the coming into the top of the body for the neck going into the skin, and cut the line when it intersects with the skin. I need to kind of keep that as it is. I need to draw some hands in here. I could put an outline in there and make it auto patch. That's not a massive deal to do. I'm tempted by it, but it could be overkill. It's just we've got an outline here, you see, so it probably will make sense to do so. And then the legs are basically going to be exactly the same as the upper body. I'm going to use no outline on the legs, I think. We'll see how that looks. And yeah, the thing I was talking about earlier on is there's like an FK system for hands where you basically draw just very quickly so you know what it for arms. So you'd have like upper arm, lower arm, hand, and it would just be, you'll have a peg, and then you have another peg on top like this. Yeah, so what it means is that you can still select the hand with the peg and move it, but then you can select this arm, this lower arm, and move the lower arm and the hand. You generally have the pivot position for the lower arm, this peg, and then the one that's like the master of it. This one would be kind of like, let me get this right. This one would be maybe near the elbow joint, and then this one could be near the wrist. That's kind of actually more for a leg if you wanted to do an IK sort of system. But the important thing is here, you can basically set the pivots differently. It's more important on the upper arm because it means that you can almost use it like an IK system. It doesn't, it can get messed up very quickly because of moving things around, but it's a very light, quick way of giving lots of control to moving the pieces. And importantly, unlike this one, if we were to tween from here to here, it is just going to go whoop, straight through the middle. Whereas with this system, it kind of respects what's happening with the drawing a lot more because it's a straight, here's the pivot, here's the elbow, and I'll rotate around it. And you can't tween across, like it can't blend these two. It will just tween from one position on one to one position on that one, and then 1 to 2 on that one. Whereas this one, it's kind of like it's almost like less points, but it can make it a bit more mushy. So you have to be a little bit careful. This is often quicker to get into the pose, but it doesn't give you anything when you hit tween. Whereas this one is slower to pose, but it gives you more workable stuff when you tween. And I think that's why this still survives and people use this a lot, because it's also simpler to set up and it's lighter on your system. And it's backwards compatible, because this is like the same as like Harmony 10. I can't even remember how far back it is, but it basically would be the past 10 years. It's always been like this, whereas this is only maybe 3-4 years old, this system. So yeah, you've got a bit more time on it. But as it is, that's the end of the stream for the day. Sorry I couldn't get my webcam to work. Thanks for joining, who were there. And yeah, hopefully you join again and again soon. I'm going to do a co-work Wednesdays tomorrow, so I'll just be doing some animation. So feel free to join in if you want to. It's the same place. Come and join the stream. All right, thanks everybody, and I'll see you again soon.